Now, what is the true financial cost of drinking alcohol? Not only for an individual, but also for an entire society. Well, today, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to need a pen and paper. Not only will we break down the cost that alcohol has on society at large, but we'll also be doing some calculations for the individual drinker, whether you've stopped drinking or not. Now, if you're still drinking, I'm going to show you an easy way to calculate exactly how much alcohol will cost you over the next 20 years. But fear not, because if you've stopped drinking already, you'll find out exactly how much money that you can expect this decision to actually save you. So watching the next 10 minutes of this video might end up being one of the best financial decisions that you make this year. So without any delay, let's get straight into it. Just before we get into the video, if you want to get access to the free video training showing you how to control your drinking without AA or willpower, click the link in the description. I'll be showing you how to use the mental model called first principles thinking to get control of your drinking. I'll be talking about the 5 critical mistakes that 90% of drinkers make, and I'll also be sharing the 2 phases of becoming sober clear. You do not want to miss that training video. It will change your mindset around drinking forever, so you can start getting your health, career, confidence, and relationships back on track. Click the link in the description for instant access. Let's first break down costs to the individual. Now, when we talk about the cost of drinking to an individual, we are referring to 2 things. First, the direct cost of purchasing the alcohol itself. And then secondly, the indirect costs arising from lost income. This can be due to poor performance at work, lost hours, missed promotions, and so on. You add up these 2 costs and you get your total financial burden, how much drinking will cost you in your lifetime. So let's take a look at the direct costs first. Let's say you drink 1 bottle of wine a day. At, let's say, $14 for a bottle of wine, you'll be spending around $420 in 1 month and around $5,000 in a year. Over a 20-year span, that works out to $100,000 at today's prices. And that doesn't include the interest. Assuming that you set that money aside every month and even put it in just a closed bank account at a very modest interest rate of 2%, you would be at $123,577 by the end of the 20 years. A considerable amount of money. Now, obviously, if we change any of these parameters just a little bit, like the price of the wine or the daily consumption increases, or maybe the interest rate increases because you're investing, we get quite different results. But the example gives you a general ballpark figure. Now, you can expect similar results for most other kinds of alcohol, though beer will tend to work out a little bit less and hard spirits probably a little bit more. Now, as I mentioned, this is just the direct cost, the cash that comes directly out of your pockets to purchase the alcohol. Now, to that, you also have to add all the lost income due to drinking, all the extra money that you would have made did you not drink. Now, this is a little bit trickier to quantify and calculate, and it's going to be very individualized for each individual person. But what I can do is tell you what this indirect cost looks like and what it's comprised of. And you can then take this framework and you can apply it to your own circumstances to arrive at a reasonable estimate. So, poor work performance has the following components: alcohol-related absenteeism, which is pretty self-explanatory; alcohol-related presenteeism, and this is when you show up to work but maybe you're hungover or even still drunk; general quality and productivity at the workplace. Now, depending on what line of work you're in and how your earnings are determined, you will have to sit down and do your best assessment to evaluate the cumulative costs. Now, if you work a salaried job, the cost will probably be in the form of lost hours, lost bonuses, and being skipped for promotion, or losing out on the opportunity to progress to a larger company. Now, if you're self-employed, the hit to your earnings will probably be a lot easier to measure. If you want to be objective, you can have a pretty decent idea of how much work per month your addiction is costing you, how many clients you're losing, and so on. Now, regardless of if you're self-employed or if you work for somebody else, at the extreme, heavy drinking can cause complete loss of income and savings. You know, as we know, there are thousands of people out there that lose absolutely everything, including their house and their ability to generate any income whatsoever. So calculate the direct cost depending on what you like to drink and how much. To get an even better picture, calculate the total expenditures with interest. Now, I'll leave you guys a link in the description to a free website where you can just plug in the monthly amount and the interest rate, then calculate the indirect costs, giving your best and most objective estimates. For those of you guys who have already stopped drinking, it's obviously worth doing this exercise as well. So calculate your likely direct and indirect issues if you had not stopped drinking. So if I were you, I'd pause the video right now, I'd do the exercise, and I'd write down the grand total, the total amount of money that you will be wasting on alcohol one way or another. It's one thing to hear a ballpark figure of $200,000, but it's another thing for you to sit down and do the calculations yourself and have the number right in front of you in black and white. And just let me know in the comment section below what you got. What number did you come up with? So now that you know how much alcohol is costing you personally, it's useful to open up the lens and zoom out a bit to see the bigger picture. So how much does drinking cost the entire economy, and how does this translate to the average taxpayer? Now, the typical figure that you'll see in textbooks is $223 billion. This is the direct and indirect cost of alcohol for the entire economy, and it comes from a widely cited 2011 study which I've linked to in the description. On a per capita basis, this translates to $746 per person. This is money that every American taxpayer will pay one way or another, whether they drink alcohol or not. So let's see how this figure breaks down. We basically have three major categories of costs: healthcare, lost productivity, and other effects. Now, believe it or not, healthcare costs only make for 24.5 out of the $223 billion. The major costs here are specialty care for those who are dependent on alcohol and their victims, hospital bills, and tragically, fetal alcohol syndrome. This syndrome touches every aspect of society and the economy, so we will see it in both of the other two categories. The second category, accounting for $161 billion, relates to lost productivity. The two major contributors to this category are impaired productivity at $74 billion and increased mortality at $65 billion. You see, when you die prematurely, it's not just a blow to your family and loved ones. All the years of schooling and lifetime education that the taxpayer and your employer paid for are now lost. Your replacement needs to be retrained and learn their job from scratch, and all of this costs a ton of money. When you consider that alcohol kills an estimated 95,000 Americans a year, you can see the magnitude of the problem for the economy as a whole. Now, lastly, there is a miscellaneous category of quote other effects. So all the other stuff that is not related to either healthcare or work. This category amounts to $37 billion. The two major components are criminal justice costs at $20 billion and motor vehicle crashes at $13 billion. Damages from fire amount to another $2 billion. So that's hundreds of thousands in lost income for each drinker and hundreds of billions for the economy as a whole. Again, let me know in the comment section what you spend or will save in your lifetime. Have a great day.